Welcome back to another episode of Rob and Amos Ramble. We got a guest here with us today, Amos, and I think we're gonna talk about sex, and I know that's always a topic that makes your cheeks hurt, as you say. You're
Yeah. Try to keep from smiling. It makes my cheeks hurt.
yeah. But we're joined by Sterling Cooper, and so Sterling, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you agreeing to have a chat with us, and I'm excited to see where this conversation goes. I imagine, I don't know those who are listening to this podcast who may be familiar with you and who may not. But do you mind giving a little just background about yourself? And is it fair to describe you? You worked in the adult industry.
Correct.
You no longer do, from my understanding, and you kind of are now out there as a men's sex coach. I mean, is that accurate? And what did that kind of journey look like for you?
Yeah, that's very accurate. First of all, thanks so much for having me on, Rob, Avis. Appreciate it. And yeah, that's. I like to use the phrase "retired and repenting" when it comes to the adult industry, because it's something like when you're obviously. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I got into the industry for benevolent reasons. It was obviously,
Yeah.
young man wanting to get, just want to have a bit of fun. But coming out the other end of it, and seeing, like, especially having a lot of young men DM me and talk about their struggles with, like, their porn habit and the just the habitual consumption they have of it, and then how that is impacting their sex lives and things. It's kind of made me be like, "Ooh, wait a minute! Like this isn't like the harmless thing that we are kind of made, like it's kind of portrayed to be. Like it does have a lot of like real world negative ramifications." So yeah, retired adult film star, and since 2020 I've been on the internet talking about sex and talking about how guys can perform better in the bedroom, how couples can spice up their sex life, how to eliminate the dead bedroom phenomenon that we see so much of, because I think that's becoming more and more prevalent, unfortunately.
Yeah,
And
very hot topic.
yeah. I mean, just go onto Reddit and scroll through that subreddit for a while, and you'll be shocked if you're not familiar with it. But I'm doing my part as the little bit I can to try and fix the problem.
Yeah. So, well, let me ask you this a little bit. Maybe it's kind of wade our way into this conversation, if you don't mind. I mean, so you mentioned there was kind of, you were realizing that porn, a lot of porn consumption is kind of unhealthy and is impacting a lot of men negatively. I mean, what about women? We don't hear very much about that side of it. Is it? And I hear, that actually porn consumption by women is quite a bit more than people might think it is as well. And is it also having negative dynamics?
Yeah, it's interesting with women consuming it more, especially younger women are consuming it more than people think, or definitely more than older generations of women did. And oddly enough, women actually, when you compare men's and women's search habits on websites, like the tube sites, the big ones that people might be familiar with. I won't say them on your podcast because I don't want YouTube to strike you or anything. But when obviously men search for it way more than women do, that's not hard to assume or to understand rather. But women's search habits, women tend to search for things that are like BDSM, things like gangbangs, things like rougher, more dominant sex. Women tend to search for that more than men do. They tend to actually, in general, across the board, when you look at their search habits. So it's actually quite interesting. And obviously sex and porn has been, and like casual sex has obviously been, discriminated against. How would I say that correctly? Like the society has done a lot to take the shame out of it, right? And so because of that, we're seeing a lot of young women turn to things like OnlyFans as a career choice, which I think that's actually the aspect of it that's kind of more damaging than like on the women's side than just them consuming it so much, because it doesn't seem to have like the grip on women's psyche that it has on men's psyche to make it such a habitual thing where they just where men will just consume it endlessly, and it's a form of escapism It's a form of sedation, much the same as you could say things like video games or like sugary fast foods are, because they're all of those things, right? Like porn, video games, and sugar, and like processed food, like really high fat, high salt, high sugar content food, right? All three of those things are tapping into like base primal human instincts that men have. So like hunger, obviously,
Mm.
evolutionary past, we craved hunger. There, I personally think that there is like an innate drive in men to want to pursue things and become greater and to provide and protect. And I call that the male hero instinct. And I think
Mm.
video games kind of like tap into that. That's why people love things like Legend of Zelda and stuff. You're seeing Ocarina of Time getting remade right now, and millennials are going nuts for it. It's because those kind of games tap into that desire for men to want to explore and conquer and do great things. And then obviously the porn is tapping into the male innate biological desire to reproduce and sleep with women and to get access to women. And that's when we appease these sort of biological drives with like instantaneously, like with no effort, with no work, it creates this really damaging like feedback loop where you end up needing more and more of the same stimulus to produce the same neurochemical result, with porn or whatever,
Mhm.
dopamine, right? With sugary fast foods, right? What we end up with when we have too much of that stuff, we end up getting insulin resistance, and that leads us to diabetes. So with things like porn, you are getting like a kind of like dopamine resistance, and so your girlfriend or your wife is no longer as exciting as she should be to your kind of primary instinctual brain, because you're just used to scrolling and seeing endless naked
Mm.
women doing all kinds of kinky, different perverted sex acts, and your wife sitting there in lingerie in front of you, by comparison to your brain, is no longer as exciting as it once was. And
Yeah.
Mm.
younger guys are getting exposed to this. So like kids are seeing their first pornographic bit of material on the fucking phone. Sorry to swear. On their
Yeah.
phone at like 12,
Yeah, it's incredible.
which is
Yeah.
insane. And the it's a Pandora's box because we're not designed to deal with that. Like the male brain is not designed to see like thousands of pairs of titties. You know, like Genghis Khan probably didn't even see that many titties.
Yeah.
And he put a lot of effort into conquering the world. Like he did something that nobody's ever done before. Same with the likes of like Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar. Like these men probably had, or King Henry VIII probably had access to any woman they wanted, and they still didn't see the number of titties that a 12-year-old kid is seeing today. So
Yeah.
I know I kind of didn't answer your question properly because you asked about women.
No,
So
but that was really, really good,
So
kind of thought provoking.
yeah, insightful. But so from a woman's perspective, I've always been like, but yeah, me here in the flesh, you can touch me and, that's got to be better than a woman on the screen, but it sounds like you're saying not as stimulating.
Well, it's obviously more physically stimulating, but it's not but the male arousal response starts here, right? It's being aroused is a like mental thing. It starts you get aroused at the thought first, and then it
Mhm.
produces a physical reaction. Now, someone touching you physically can then like turn that loop on as well, but this is why you see a lot of younger guys struggling with things like, well, I mean, the term they're using now is porn-induced erectile dysfunction. So we're seeing a lot of younger guys coming up with that problem, and and we're seeing some guys even have the problem of delayed ejaculation, which is kind of the opposite of premature ejaculation, where they can't finish at all because they just jerk off too much to too many different types of porn. So there's a lot of like knock-on effects of this. And you talk to like young women, or you talk to, or even more interesting thing is to talk to women in their like mid 30s, like maybe the cougar types who are hooking up with younger guys. and they'll tell you like these young guys are like having these boner problems which they shouldn't have because they're virile young men. So there's something going on with like the dopamine reward circuitry in their brain, which is supposed to work when they see a beautiful woman in front of them, and when they're able to be intimate, like you just said, with that beautiful woman. But there's a lot of guys who are just consuming way too much of this stuff are having that problem in the bedroom, and it's really shocking. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of making me think about like it's like this really negative kind of feedback loop because I know in a lot of just dead bedroom situations where you have something's off between the husband and the wife, right, and the sex isn't happening, and so the man retreats to porn or something like that, right, which is from what I hear you talking about is probably actually in the end going to make the problem even worse for him because as unattracted as he is to his wife already, it's just compounding that issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think guys in marriages are turning to porn because of like you said, the dead bedroom has happened, right? And so there's a thing that I have this theory where if a woman like rejects a man's sexual advances, it basically reduces her upper limit for being sexy. So like let's say like in your mind as a husband, your wife is like she's a 10 out of 10, like her cup is full. It's like 100% she is sexy. And now she rejects you sexually. Like you make an advance to her, she's like, "Oh, I'm not in the mood tonight. I've got a headache, or we've got to get up early tomorrow, or the kids, or something," right? And then that 100% cup now goes down to like 90%. Like the amount that she can, the sexiest she can possibly be, has now been reduced, like in total. And then it happens again, and then it goes down to like 80%, and then it happens again, and it goes down to 70. And so eventually, you just wear down a man's like sexual confidence because, like, women want men to make the move, right? Women are generally aroused by a man pursuing her sexually and being turned on by her, being passionate towards her. But he needs to have the confidence to do so. So every time that he is rejected sexually like that, it reduces his confidence. It reduces his ability to view his wife as sexy anymore because he really has two choices in his mind. Not in his mind, but his brain kind of has two choices. One, he ignores what she just said, which he won't do because he doesn't want to. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't want to cross that boundary for her because she's his wife and he loves her, right? So that option is off the table. And then option two is he basically has to try and reduce his sexual desire for her to prevent that just destruction of his ego.
Yeah.
So you create a very negative feedback loop. And so what do a lot of these married men in the dead bedroom resort to? They resort to porn to satiate that need to express ourselves sexually, shall we say. And that can lead down that path that a lot of young men have already taken, which is excessive habitual consumption, right? So he's using it as like a band-aid to start with, but it just turns him down this really negative rabbit hole. And it, like you said, it exacerbates the problem and it makes it worse. And I mean, we can talk about like how to fix the dead bedroom and some strategies and techniques for that, but it's a lot more damaging than people think it is, I think, because your I think you guys say this as well, like the relationship is kind of like the foundation for a lot of relationships. The glue that holds them together is sex.
Yeah.
It's the reason men and women
right.
get together.
It's why we got married. It's why,
Yeah.
Like you get married because you love that person. You find them attractive. You want to be with them. You want to hopefully create a family with them, which requires sex. If you didn't take the birds and the bees class in primary school, you might have skipped that part. But it's pretty intimate. So that it's pretty innate to the part of being in a relationship. So if you don't have that sex life active, but especially for men, it becomes much, much harder to bond emotionally.
Yeah.
Like you become roommates.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. So let me ask you, kind of just morality aside for a minute, because I think a lot of because there is sort of this moral component to it, right? Because husbands are married, we're not supposed to be committing adultery. We're not supposed to be doing those things. And porn seems to be maybe like this like gray middle ground where it's like, well, I'm not committing adultery. I'm not having sex with another woman, right? I'm just kind of visually feasting on this and kind of getting my um ego falsely built up, whatever it is. Because men try to protect their ego, right? I think it was a great point and insightful what you were saying. I mean, it's because it is kind of knocks the ego down when you're not getting the sex that you're you know kind of build you up. So would a man, and maybe this is getting kind of maybe we're wading into this already of how to fix a dead bedroom, but would it seems to me almost like psychologically it would be almost better for a man to go out and have sex with some rando than consuming porn, just in terms of like what that's kind of doing to his brain is what you're talking about. It's like you're scrolling through thousands of these rando women online versus having sex with one. I don't know. And again, I'm saying morality aside because I know some people are gonna be like, well, that's the worst. I don't know, but
Yeah, yeah. I get what I understand that the sort of conundrum you're talking about.
yeah,
And if you actually look through the dead bedroom subreddit, what you will find a few times in there is you will actually find instances of a husband who's tried to spark up the sex life again with his wife, and she's turned him down for several years,
mm,
and then eventually he's resorted to is prostitution, or he's having an affair on her. And there's a couple of really interesting stories that I've read on there where the guy has done that. Obviously, has not told his wife that, but she has somewhat sensed that something is happening without any knowledge of it. She sensed it, and then all of a sudden, the wife has reinitiated sex with her husband again.
Mm.
So it's like he didn't want to step out of the relationship, but she denied him sex, and then he did step out to get his sexual needs met, and now all of a sudden, the wife wants him back again and is having sex with him again. So, like you said before, morality aside about whether that is the right thing to do or not, it definitely works. Like it is
Yeah.
effective,
Well,
unfortunately.
women want a man that other women want.
Correct.
oh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've actually seen Reddit threads where women are complaining like I want him to be able to cheat on me. Like have I?
yeah,
It's basically like this thing of like, have I picked the wrong guy? If no women find my husband attractive anymore, oh shit, have I backed the wrong horse?
right,
You know?
yeah,
Yeah.
And I don't think that is. A lot of people will take that observation of female behavior and think that I'm trying to attribute some kind of misogynistic, like negative connotation to women in general. I think that is amoral. Personally, I think the desire, like we can't like change how we're wired, but we can make choices. We can choose to act on impulses and act on instincts, or not to act on them. So but I think you stand a far better chance of having a successful marriage, a successful relationship, a happy sex life if you understand each other's basic instincts. And for women, one of
yeah,
those basic instincts is to be with a man that other women find desirable, because that proves to her that she made the right choice. If
yeah,
other women are going, it's kind of like, if why is nobody trying to steal my man from me? If that is a question that she's asking herself, then she starts to have that sort of, it's kind of like commitment anxiety in a way. It's like, shit, like I need to actually get with a more attractive, higher value, higher status man. And maybe this isn't a conscious thought, a rational thought, but it's a feeling. It's a feeling in like the back of her mind uh of not feeling safe, of insecurity, and women will actually like kind of rationalize this feeling verbally in thing with statements like, we grew apart. He's not the man I married. There's no emotional connection between us anymore. They'll use these sort of placeholder things, these placeholder statements, which don't accurately describe the scenario.
Mhm.
And it's kind of a way of backwards rationalizing like this feeling she can't quite understand about her own nature. And I think it's kind of when a woman can actually be self-aware enough to understand that, it's really freeing for her and the relationship, because she's like, oh cool, I get it now. Like let's like let's engineer situations where I can actually, like, I know my husband is not going to cheat on me, but let's at least engineer situations where we're interacting with groups of men and women, and I can see other women at least give him attention. So it's like validating the fact that he's not an unattractive blob anymore.
Yeah.
There's like 3 places in town I can take Rob, and the women like flock to him in front of me. Literally. I know he's a wanted man in town. If something happens
just
to
in this
me,
town. Don't anybody give me ideas. But
if something happens to me, he's got no problems.
Well, how does that feel to you, Avis, when you're seeing that in the moment? Like, you're kind of, it sounds like you're kind of aware of it too. So
Oh, and sometimes I have to point it out to him that women
Yeah.
are flirting with him, because he doesn't really
I am
get
a
it
little
all
aloof
the
to that at
time.
times. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me because, we have an understanding that he's not going to cheat on me. If he wants to, he just needs to let me know, and then we move forward from that conversation. But it's not something that I fear.
Yeah.
So
It's yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say, I don't think any husband should cheat. I mean, we're very kind of big on have the hard conversations, right? And if there's
Yes.
something going on in your marriage that you're like, hey, you know what, like this isn't working sexually or whatever it is, and like I want to go have sex with the neighbor down the street, like you should have those conversations, because I think you can there's a lot of, that's at a point where stuff may still be fixable. Right.
Yeah.
But if you're kind of taking those additional steps of like, what, it's so broken, I'm doing stuff behind your back, and then you got some bigger
Yeah.
problems happening.
And that's kind of more my point, is we talk so much that I should never expect to be blindsided, because we have a very open line of communication, and we address things, hopefully before they get that far down the road.
Yeah,
But-
I'll give you all listeners a quick like a fix, right? So we said I agree with you. If you're a husband and you're in a committed relationship, you shouldn't be cheating, right? So we've seen, I mean, sure, it's anecdotal, but we've seen at least anecdotal examples on like subreddits, like the Dead Bedroom subreddit, where a man having an affair behind his wife's back has caused her to be more attracted and aroused to him and initiate sex again and fix the dead bedroom thing. Here's a middle ground that will fix the problem, and you're not cheating on your wife. And the middle ground is this: adjust your schedule, your daily schedule as the man. Adjust your daily schedule as though you were having an affair, but don't actually have the affair.
Interesting.
Right?
Makes her wonder what's going on.
Exactly. So he's staying later at work now. He's coming home at odd hours of the day. He might, maybe for some reason, he has like a hint of a woman's fragrance on his jacket now. That's all you like.
Yeah.
Little things like you're not actually cheating on her.
Yeah.
You're just dropping these like hints that, hey, like something might be happening, right? That in and of itself, if anyone's listening, any men listening who are in a dead bedroom scenario, you've got nothing to lose, by the way, by trying that, because there's no infidelity.
Stuff's already broken. Yeah.
It's broken, right? Your marriage is broken. The bedroom's dead. You've got nothing to lose with trying this out, and everything to gain. And she can't accuse you of an affair. There's nothing actually going on. So just spend that time with like your buddies. Like, go if you're staying late at work, go hang out with your friends for a bit. But give that a try, and you may find that she comes back and starts reinitiating things again because she's afraid of losing you. And that's unfortunate. It's cool. I mean, it's not a nice thing to do, but I think it's better than letting the relationship get destroyed and breaking up.
Well, and I think especially for men, I mean, they've got kids, they've got a life, they've got, there's financial damage. There's just a lot of things that go very sideways. And if you can fix it, it's always better to fix it, right? Yeah. And if you can fix it in a way that you're genuinely happy, and you genuinely enjoy the marriage, even better.
Exactly.
I'm gobsmacked when people say it's been a dead bedroom for a year or years. Like, how does it go that long?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what blows me away when I'm reading these accounts on Reddit. And it's like 5 years, 10 years, like, and I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah.
how on earth did you let it get to that stage? You know, and
Yeah.
like I don't, it's I don't think you have to have sex every single day, but there's a fine line between like letting it drag on too long.
Yeah.
You know, you have to keep that spark there. You have to eat, and it doesn't mean you have to. It doesn't mean the sex has to be like a 10 out of 10 mind blowing experience every time either,
Yeah.
because it's just about like it's just about reassessing, like getting back in touch with each other intimately, and then being like, hey, we can still do this for each other. And to be fair, if you've been with someone long enough, you kind of you should have like the greatest hits down. You know what I mean? You kind of
Right.
know what moves to pull, what buttons to push. So like the quickie in a long-term relationship is probably one that has you both orgasming within 5-10 minutes max. It's like cool. We don't need to like have an all-nighter to get that bond again for both of us.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's really good to point out, and it's I mean, you do kind of have that sex that is that 10 out of 10, right? But it's not. Then you're also gonna have the maintenance sex or whatever, right? Where you're just like the quickie, the whatever. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's not the all nighter like you're talking about, where you're like, wow, that's the best sex we ever had, but like it doesn't, and I know for us in our relationship, I mean, it's kind of like that, like 10-10 sex is really like that's really the glue in a lot of ways that kind of holds it together, right? And you have these really great sexual experience. Um, and then you're still having sex in between. It's not as good, but it's like I know I find with us, like when we have like those kind of really great 10 out of 10, it's like the maintenance sex in between that is kind of better, directly after that. And it's like you're still kind of riding that high and that.
Yes.
It's interesting all that kind of psychology around this and just kind of how it impacts us. It's
Well,
well let,
I was going to jump in there real quick and say,
okay. Yeah.
if we talking about psychology, unless you're going to ask me about the psychology of sex,
That's what I was gonna say. So I mean, I think we're kind of treading into that. I mean, what makes great sex great sex? What is the
I think let's talk about it from the female perspective first, because I think the really interesting thing about, well, the psychology is dictated by the neurochemistry, right? The brain chemistry, what's going on chemically up here. Excuse me. And there's two things that make for really good sex for a woman, and it's the release of endorphins and it's the release of oxytocin. So, and the interesting thing is, like, so orgasm releases oxytocin, right? And that's like the pair bonding kind of molecule. That's kind of what generates love. You know,
Mhm.
it's that dump that now other things release oxytocin, like holding hands, cuddling, kissing, like these things, like all these like intimate things, they all release oxytocin, but the orgasm releases a lot of it. So you get this dump, right? And that helps the pair bond between the two of you. The other interesting thing that creates really intense sex for women, or really memorable sex for women, is the endorphin rush. And if anyone's heard of endorphins before, endorphins are the things that kick in when you hurt yourself, like you stub your toe. It's like and then you get a rush of endorphins to take the pain away.
Yeah.
And this is why like intense, passionate sex is really good. Like women really enjoy it because it actually creates an endorphin release. Now, I'm not saying you should hurt your wife or anything like that, but
Sure.
things like things like manhandling her a little bit. Like picking her up, tossing her onto the soft mattress, pinning her hands down in a kinky, fun way, pulling her hair properly, giving her a little bit of a spank here and there. This is what
Properly
spanking,
being very key. I've learned that one the hard way.
Yeah.
right? And that's why spanking is such a it's pretty much a universally liked thing
Yeah.
amongst women, is because it releases endorphins. like the pain aspect actually creates an endorphin rush. And so when you get the endorphins and the oxytocin together, that is kind of like the key for a really great sexual experience for women, which I find super interesting because it kind of communicates. The other thing that it kind of communicates subconsciously, psychologically, like evolutionarily to a woman, if you're able to manhandle her a bit with passion, it demonstrates your ability to actually provide and protect for her. It demonstrates your strength.
Yeah.
You know,
I like to say, are you manly enough to pick me up and carrying me across the raging river if we need to get to the other side?
beautifully
Right?
said.
So like
Oh.
it taps into that same
Yeah.
energy.
It's exactly that. Correct. It's so simple. It's not complicated.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to be some kind of tantric yoga sexual guru to tick that box in a woman's mind. All you got to do is like manhandle her a little bit. You're not hurting her. You're not causing any physical harm or anything. You're just showing her, hey, I'm stronger than you. It's kind of like if you had like a younger sibling and you play that like, why are you hitting yourself game?
Right.
You know, it's a bit like that, but it's being done in a fun context in the bedroom.
Yeah. So that's kind of from the woman's side, the oxytocin, but mostly the endorphin release. I mean, what about from a man's side? So, how do we psychologically define this for men?
I think for the men's side of things, and I've been trying over the last year, I've been trying to kind of tackle this problem from the from the other angle as well. Like usually I've been helping men, and lately I've been trying to help a lot of women out with this as well. And I think one of the interesting things I've come across, right, is women can biohack a man's evolutionary biology really easily. So give me a second. Let me nerd out on you for a second.
Okay, go for it.
So we all, like everybody who, if you study a little bit of evolutionary psychology or sexual evolutionary psychology specifically, right? What is sort of the male conundrum when it comes to sex? We usually refer to this as like the Madonna whore complex, where men lust after the whore, but they want the chaste virgin Madonna to be their wife and the mother of their kids. And the reason men have that Madonna whore complex is because we're trying to appease two things simultaneously. We're trying to appease like access to sex, like access to reproduction in the first place. And we're also trying to appease certainty of paternity, right? So we want to have sex with a woman, but we need to know that that kid will be ours, right? That's kind of the male evolutionary psychology game. Like we're trying to appease those two things, right? Now, here's the really interesting part. When a woman, like usually, like all signs of like, think of every beauty product that a woman buys is designed to try and make her look a bit more younger, right? It's
Mhm.
designed to try and make a woman appear as though she is in her peak fertility window of age range, right? Now, does that mean that men are only attracted to young women? Obviously, that's not the case, right? That's obviously a lie. So here's the real kicker is that every month you go through a cycle, you go through your period, and there is a window where when you are fertile. That's your fertile window, right? And what? Tell me if I'm wrong, Avis, but that time of the month you are usually randy as hell,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Middle of the month. We call that middle of the month.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like,
It's day 14 of most women's cycle-ish, and that's kind of the middle of the month, and those are good days around here.
Great, yeah, great day. Great
Yeah.
day,
yeah.
right? So you're super horny, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing about human like sexual biology versus like other primates. Other primates like chimpanzees, bonobos, and stuff. When the woman is in heat, in use, in at her peak fertility, there's a visual cue. Like there's the labia are bright red and flush, and you can see the chimpanzee or the bonobo walk around. That bonobo is in heat. That chimpanzee is in heat, and all the other male chimpanzees can see it, and then they act on it. Humans don't have that. We don't have any visual cues that tell us you are in your peak fertile. But we do have your behavior and
Yes.
what you just said, horniness. So here's where I circle right back and actually explain what the hell I'm talking about. so the way that women can biohack men's evolutionary psychology is genuine enthusiastic lust for him, because you being incredibly horny and sexually aggressive basically towards him is what our evolutionary brain thinks of as a signal of your peak fertility. It's like our brain is like, oh, she's fertile. Oh, she's fertile. And she's giving us sexual access because she's our wife, she's our girlfriend, and she's coming at us with it. So that really simple thing. I know I'm explaining a very simple thing in a really complicated way, but you're appeasing those two different evolutionary triggers, access to sex and peak fertility, by being genuine, like showing genuine enthusiastic lust toward your husband.
Yeah.
Because to our brain, it's like, oh, we can get her pregnant today. You know?
It's funny because I mean, with this and the word enthusiasm comes up a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like when you hear about this and you ask men, kind of like they're like, we want like enthusiasm is a thing, and I have this thing that I do kind of want to get into with you, and I not prematurely, but it just seems like a good fitting to kind of maybe talk about now, but you know, in the context of porn and, like what does porn represent? I'm talking about mainstream porn. I know there's some weird offshoots and stuff out there, but I think, at least, and you correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but I kind of think it's a representation of kind of the male ideal of kind of fit, feminine, and what's the third thing? Enthusiasm, right? Which is the big thing that men are after. And so, we have this thing we like to say once in a while, like, wives, like, strive to be your husband's personal porn star. They get some women upset when we say that, but that's really kind of exactly what what we're talking about is, kind of the same thing what you're saying. It's like that enthusiastic kind of like you've got the visual cues down, like he's attracted to you, and you bring that enthusiasm, like you're going to rock your husband's world. Like that's like the male kind of ideal.
And I think calling it biohacking is genius because do you know Bunny, the ex matriarch? I think is
Fort Worth Playboy. She's with him. I don't know.
Oh,
anyway.
I'm familiar with Playboy. Yeah.
So she's his girl, and she talks about sex and from the women's perspective a lot. And one of her things is for women when you're not really that into it is to really play into it, like throw your hair around, be louder. She's like, it'll be over faster that way.
She does say that, yeah.
And you're calling it biohacking, and that's exactly what she's talking about. She's like, just play into that and lean into it. And then, and not only, but then you get into it more as well. Also, is her point. Absolutely. Like, but you know what she's saying is when you're not really that into it, if you lean into it and play into it, it's gonna go better anyways. And that to me, like you two are saying the same thing. It's kind of like that biohacking.
She talks about like, like if a woman's having a little trouble getting into it, like she's like, be over the top about it. You know, and it's like you'll kind of get yourself there and your husband at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's amazing advice.
Yeah.
And like body language impacts psychology. It's a two-way street. I don't know if you've ever seen these. Like Tony Robbins used to talk about this a lot, like striking power poses for confidence. Because when you're confident, you stand a certain way, and if you stand a certain way, you feel more confident, right?
Yeah.
Same thing applies here when we're talking about like a woman maybe feigning more enthusiasm than she actually might have in the moment, or feigning like really getting off on the experience. Like you're kind of doing it both ways. You're kind of tricking your own brain a bit if you're not quite there yet. If you just, it's kind of like fake it till you make it. It actually works.
Yeah.
But to go back on what you were saying, Rob, it's look at all porn. Look at like 90% of porn scripts. I was in the industry. I shot a few.
Yeah, I've never read a porn script, but enlighten us here. I'd like to hear.
Well, they're pretty much the vast majority of them are the woman being the sexual aggressor. So she's the one that is like seducing him. She's the one that is doing the initiating. She's the one that's being sexually aggressive. She's the one that's showing the enthusiasm. And it's kind of like from the man's perspective, it's like, oh, this is 100% going to happen. There's and not only that, but like I am arousing her. That is
My
the real
my
fantasy.
presence is like she's bringing the enthusiasm because of the
Yeah, like she's getting off on getting me off.
yeah
I think like that is a real fantasy for men. Is that
yeah
idea? And
yeah
the like because the female orgasm is like evidence of that.
yeah.
You know, it's the
It-
female orgasm is actually so powerful, and that's why I would personally recommend if a women are actually struggling a bit with coming with their partner. There's two things I recommend that they do. One is stop using any vibrating devices because you're just jackhammering all of your nerves down there. And the last I checked, no man's penis has a vibrate function inbuilt into it.
Not yet. Give Elon Musk time. He's gonna get
Yeah,
us
give me.
there.
It's like the $1 million man. Like we can
Yeah.
build him, make him stronger. So you're not. So one, you're jackhammering away all the sensitivity in the nerves in the clitoral region by using vibrating toys, and two, it's not. You're training your body to orgasm to a sensation that is not replicable by a man. He can't do well. Maybe he could like hum on your clitoris for a while, but I don't think it's quite going to match, right? So instead, I recommend women if they get. Actually recommend women if they struggle to orgasm with their partner should masturbate more, but they should do it with their fingers and with an anatomically correct dildo
Mm,
because you want to train your body to respond to the same sensations your husband's going to give you during sex, right? And then
yeah,
you can
that makes
train.
a lot of sense.
It's just
It's kind of like this is what you're talking about, like with men and like porn, and it's like this kind of unrealistic, just endless flow of women, and yeah, it's like I understand where you're coming from with that kind of the same
yeah.
idea.
It's
Yeah,
like it's a muscle memory thing, actually. In the same way, like men have the problem sometimes of with premature ejaculation, where they masturbate like it's a race. So when they masturbate, they come as quickly as they possibly can. Well, what does that do? That trains your body to respond to arousal with instant ejaculation, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
It's a
makes
mind
sense.
muscle connection thing. It's just like hitting, just like when you go to the gym and you work out a muscle, you learn to kind of contract that muscle better. You develop a mind muscle connection. Same thing applies to masturbation. So you can train yourself the same way that men can accidentally train themselves to prematurely ejaculate. Women can train themselves to be more orgasmic and respond better to penetration and orgasm easier. So that
Yeah,
and there is no greater evidence of your desire for a man as a wife to a husband. There's no greater evidence than your orgasm.
yeah.
You know, it
It,
proves to him that you're into it.
You were kind of making me think when you were talking about that, and her kind of getting off and getting him off, and it's like, I mean, I think all us men who have experienced it would agree, like, there's nothing better than you're getting a blowjob and she's having an orgasm from doing it, right?
Right?
It's like, is that making your cheeks hurt? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Making my cheeks hurt. Gotcha.
And that, like,
But that just like psychologically for a man, like,
yeah.
That's like you're touching a lot of good positive things there for them.
Nothing compares.
Yeah.
It's really I don't think enough women are really taught this side of male sexual psychology, you know, and
Yeah.
hopefully, that premise, especially that idea of like, play like when you're giving them a blowjob, play with your clitoris a bit, like it's women are supposed to be able to multitask apparently, so that's do the two things at once and create. Not only will that give him, it'll actually give him a mind-blowing experience, like you just said, but the other thing that it'll do is you're giving yourself a psychological anchor when you do that, because if she is masturbating while she gives a blowjob, then whenever she thinks about blowjobs, she is going to be horny.
Yeah.
So it works. It has a double effect. It's doing two things. It's doing something for him and something for her. So it's actually quite powerful.
Yeah. It's so much of this stuff is in the mind, right? And just kind of making those connections, and it's amazing.
Yeah. I always tell women when they're having a hard time, one, like you said, drop all the vibrators. Like, that's not a good thing for you. And then just focus on the good things about your husband. What draws you to him, not the negatives. Like, just stop thinking about the negatives,
Yeah.
start thinking about the positives, move things in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good stuff. Well, let me ask you kind of on the same kind of topic a little bit. So, when we talk about like being your husband's porn star, right? And maybe we say the same thing for husbands, be your wife's porn star, if you can, right? Which is really just meaning like, what is the ideal? Like, what is everybody looking for? Like, we want to live in the reality that is versus the reality we maybe wish was. So, kind of living in just the reality of what psychologically is stimulating to men and women, like that's what we should be leaning into if we want the best kind of sexual experiences. And that's what we mean when we say that, but I do at times we have some fans who kind of push back hard on that. And they're like, "Oh my God, like you're telling your wife to be your husband's porn star. Like what do you want some drugged out, whatever like what how much of that I'm just curious having worked in the industry. I mean, I understand. I'm sure there are some dark stuff that kind of is going on in that industry and and I'm sure there's a different levels of it that are happening. But I mean, is that a fair depiction of like
You know what? When you're on set, the vast majority of women that you're dealing with are they're there of their own. Like I never worked with any woman in my time, and I worked in like Australia, England, Czech Republic, Hungary, and the United States. I worked in like 5 different industries. Right. I never worked with a woman who wasn't there of her own free will, like who hadn't enthusiastically, voluntarily said, "I want to do pornography." Right
sure.
Mhm.
now, are they like they're not drugged out? We're not allowed to be drunk when we shoot. We have to when we sign consent forms. We have to be sober. Um,
Mm,
in California, a couple of the women would smoke weed before scenes just to mellow out, but
yeah.
they're not like out of their mind, super duper high. Um, yeah, so it's not really this like that. I understand what you're saying when a lot of women will push back against this idea of be your husband's porn star because for them their impression, their the mental image they have in their mind of what a porn star is probably some woman, like you said, who's drugged out, who's not consenting to
She
it,
doesn't want to be there. She's being
doesn't want to be
raped.
there,
She's being whatever. Yeah.
is maybe being humiliated and degraded in some way, right?
Yeah.
So their mind's going to like the really really extreme end of stuff. Um, and don't get me wrong, there were absolutely like producers that did stuff like that. They were usually like it's producer performer. So it's usually like a guy with his own site and
Mm,
he's the cameraman and he's the performer and then he's doing like just pretty degrading stuff. And some of them went to jail for it. So this has
mm,
happened. So
yeah.
but there is the vast majority of porn stars are either they're there for a paycheck and they're very like professional about what they do,
Yeah.
or they're kind of like nymphomaniacs and they're really like they really get into it. And yeah, when you and me are saying be your husband's personal porn star, what we're just saying is the enthusiasm part.
This is enthusiasm.
It's
That's
just
really
the
what it boils
enthusiasm.
down to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all it really boils down to. Because all the like all the all the different kinky perverted kind of sex acts that people see in pornography are downstream of that enthusiasm,
Yeah.
you know. So she's so enthusiastic for him that she will do things with him that she hasn't done before, or she won't do with another guy. You know what I mean? It's all downstream of that key thing.
Yeah. Well, let me so let's talk about the shame topic for a minute. So, especially, and I don't know if you're Christian. I fine if you are, fine if you aren't, doesn't matter. But, I'll just say in a lot of Christian circles, there is a fair amount of kind of shame around sex and just, programming from the church from presumably very well-meaning people who kind of misunderstand the Bible. And, I mean, I come from, I don't think there's any shame about sex. Like we've been talking about, I think we're psychologically wired, right? So, if you believe in God, I mean, I would say, well, God created us with this desire in us. Like we should lean into that hard, right? but there are still people that struggle with the shame. And I hear this sometimes out of, husbands talking about their wives, and their wives are just having some shame around, like, you want me to do what? Like,
Mm.
how do you, what kind of tips do you have for that? I mean, is this a thing you talk to men about, and women? And
Yeah, I get this question from well-meaning guys. It's in particular, I get it from men, obviously Christian men, but for the vast majority, around this idea that I try to teach men about being more dominant in the bedroom, or being, a lot of people kind of push back against that word too, dominant. They think when I say be more dominant, they think I mean be degrading or be abusive or something like that. What I mean is be passionate, right? Lead,
yeah,
have some intensity to what you're doing, right? That's what I mean when I say dominant. But I'll get pushback from some men on that, because they'll think that's not me. Like, I don't think I have that in me to be that kind of passionate lover. And that stems from that shame aspect you talked about, where it's like we're not even allowed to explore this side of us, which is obviously innate to us. And you have a wife with whom you can both share this experience with. And if anything, it's like it's the ideal scenario. Like, you're in a committed monogamous relationship. Perfect. Like, you can both explore your sexual sides together in a non-judgmental way, and it's no one else's business outside of the bedroom, because it's just the two of you having fun together. And so, yeah, it's how do you sort of parcel that shame out of a guy when it comes to it? And the way I've done it is, I've said, look, try this one thing, which is on the more vanilla end of the spectrum, and see what response you get from your wife. Te- See if her eyes light up with happiness. Her eyes, like, and the really simple one I actually start a lot of guys off with is simply like pinning her hands by her side. So, like, pinning her hands like that, not like super hard, just like, just gent, just gently holding them there, and but doing it in the act of sex, in like a passionate way. Bam, pinning her hands by her side while you're taking her, and that's not harming her. Is She can get out if she wants. She can, she can, if she resists a little bit, you take them away. Like, cool, she wasn't into that, right? But a lot of the time, with a lot of women, you get an incredibly positive, like, her eyes just like, oh yes, finally, kind of look in her eyes. That's this is not just my experience. This is what these guys are telling me back again. And it's like, do that one thing, try that one thing out, and then see what feedback you get. Because it's a positive feedback loop. They'll see, oh, once I actually start being more passionate, more dominant, more maybe manhandling a bit more, showing that strength in me, oh, she's giving me really positive feedback. She's really enjoying it. And it's like, you just need to convince, like, how can this be something I should be ashamed of? Like, because the shame is like linked to them thinking that they're doing something bad to her.
Mm.
They think they're doing something that is degrading to her, humiliating to her, hurting her,
right,
disrespecting her, right?
right,
And so if you do something like this and you see that she actually really enjoys it, well, then how can it be disrespectful to her and degrading and humiliating if
yeah.
she's actually getting off on it?
And
Yeah.
and sometimes if she's dealing with her own shame issues, like, these may be things she desires. Maybe she can't even put words on what it is, right?
Yeah.
But like, she, like, you kind of take the man taking the lead in that, and, like, I think what you're saying is kind of just dipping your toe in the water, like, just try this
Yeah.
thing, right? See what kind of response you get. Is also kind of giving her permission to kind of come out of her shame a little bit about it, and open up.
Yeah, completely. Because you have to lead her through it. That's my take on it. Is you have to go first as the man. Like, like, every emotion that you feel, she's gonna like reflect off of you, right? So if you're in the bedroom, especially, like, if you're unconfident and you're nervous and you're timid about what you're trying to do, she's gonna feel that, and that's gonna make her feel unsafe. And so she's gonna reflect back to you nervous, timid, uncertain energy, right? So you have to kind of go with confidence. So wherever you're confident, wherever your boundary is, or whatever you're comfortable with, she can go with you, right? And you can baby step her, lead her through new experiences, and then help her kind of get over that idea of being shamed into it. And it's like, look, if like God wouldn't have put a clitoris on your body if he didn't want you to enjoy sex.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's pretty. It's not. I don't think it's a very complicated theological argument to say
Sure.
that we should enjoy sex as a couple, as a married,
Yeah.
as
I
married.
mean, if we weren't meant to, why were we wired to enjoy it? We enjoy it. It's an enjoyable
Yeah.
experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and in terms of it being like, if you do it within the confines of a marriage, you do it, and you have a family and you're having a great time. Like there is nothing to be ashamed about.
No.
You know.
Yeah. Absolutely not.
Yeah, no.
So you sell some courses, right? You have some materials that men can buy, and I want to kind of hear a little bit more about that. But maybe before, I mean, what if I asked you for like, so you've got a man, right? And he's trying to kind of lead his wife to a better sex life for both of them, right? And I do think that's something important for men to keep in mind. I do try to kind of convey this to men too on this topic, that like you want the best for your marriage, right? And so you don't want to be, you want to have a great sexual experience yourself, but you also want your wife, and you shouldn't be ashamed of that or hold back from that, because, it's good for your marriage. It's strengthening the bond. It's doing all these great things. So like, don't be sexually timid. It's only good things from that. But kind of along that lines, what if I asked you, so you've got a guy, he's kind of struggling in this area. He's like, I want to improve our sex life. I want to lead my wife to it. Like, what would be your top, maybe like 5 tips that you would give to him? Like, hey, here's how you can kind of start wading into that and getting you and your wife there.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to give you some stuff that's going to help with that. It's also going to help with dead bedroom, phenomenon. I think let's start off with anticipation. The idea of anticipation.
Mm.
So I think time apart from one another is actually really powerful for building sexual tension. Like if you're around each other 24/7 and then you're in each other's business all the time, it starts to build that roommates kind of feeling.
Mm.
But time apart, whether it's just the work day or whether it's a weekend, he's off camping with the boys for a weekend, like that, she needs to like miss you in order to appreciate you, and vice versa. You need to miss her in order to appreciate her. We take people for granted too quickly. So I think time apart and utilizing that time apart with some sexting, if you're comfortable with that, if that's within your wheelhouse, to build up that sexual tension and build up that anticipation when you're away from one another. Just both men, the man and the woman, tell each other all the dirty things you want to do to each other. Tell each other.
Yeah, I think that's great. Avis and I, we sex all the time. I was just at the gym earlier without her, and she was sexting me while I was at the gym. I mean, it's okay, right?
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect because arousal is like anticipation. It's that it's that projecting into the future the thing that's coming, and it's when you're apart and you're sexting one another, you're just building up that arousal, and you're building it up, and eventually, like this, the steam has to go somewhere. It's like an engine, right? And so when you do see each other, you're both just raring to go. You want to rip each other's clothes off, and that creates really good sexual experiences.
Mhm.
So I think the first tip would be build that anticipation like that. The second thing I'll add on top of that is being more spontaneous and unpredictable, because especially in a long-term relationship, predictable, we can get into routine, and there's nothing wrong with routine, but throw a spanner in the works every now and then. Take her when she's not expecting it. Go for a romantic drive and just have her in the back seat like you did when you were teenagers. Like throwing in that spontaneity takes away that because predictable is boring. If you can see what's coming, what's coming, it takes the arousal out of things and makes them less exciting, right? But if you can throw in those occasional spontaneous sex times, It could be around the house when she's not expecting it. She's busy doing something, and you just bend her over and have a good time with her. Like whenever it is, that's going to keep her. It keeps her in this perpetual state of when is he going to do that next, right? Which makes just the baseline existence exciting, because now she's thinking, if you're doing that every now, like a few times, it's like, shit, when is he going to do it next? Like it makes you arousing when you're not doing any arousing, right?
Mhm.
So that unpredictability is quite powerful. I think the third thing I'd say is dirty talk. The brain is our largest sexual organ for both men and women. This applies. This actually, everything I'm saying here actually applies to both sexes, which is really good. Dirty talk, incredibly powerful. If people don't know what to say, people tend to like default to just copying something they heard in like a porno, which can come across really cheesy and cliche. So the things I give people is like, try just describing the sensations you're feeling back to your partner.
Mm.
You know, she can feel how hard you are, you can feel how wet she is, etc. Another thing for guys to do, especially, is commands. So like, bend over, spread it, put your hand on it, do this, do that. You know, in a fun, flirtatious, commanding tone, right? Dirty talk can take like, my opinion, dirty talk takes like sex and then does like a 10x on it, because it just taps into here, and it allows everything. It allows you to get into like the right head state, both of you, and doing it to also turns you on. So it's self hypnosis.
Yeah. And I can see it really playing into that whole anticipation thing too, you were first talking about. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
kind of.
And you're kind of practicing. If you practice the sexting, you're kind of practicing what you might end up saying like in the bedroom. So it's like training wheels for dirty talk.
Yeah.
In a way, right? So you can get more comfortable actually doing it in the act of. The next thing, tip number 4, I'd say is this idea of coquetting. And if you're not familiar with what the word coquetting means, you can think of it as sexual push-pull. Coquetting is the best example you can give is what strippers do. So what does a stripper do with a man? She rubs her boobs in his face, she grinds her butt on his lap, and then when he tries to touch her, she slaps his hand away.
Mm.
So coquetting is the art of like building up sexual desire and then denying or delaying its release. And both men and women can do this. So with a woman, what a woman might do to her husband is she might give him a blowjob and build him up to the point where he's about to finish, and then take it away, and then let him calm down again, so they can go and then do something else, right? With what a man might do to his wife is, it could be something like, there's a game I've taught people which is called the just the tip game, which you might be able to understand what that means.
I think I got it. Yeah.
You just give her the tip, and then you tell her she has to beg for the rest of it. And then she begs, and you give her a tiny bit more. And she begs, and you give her a tiny bit more. And eventually she is wrapping her legs around you, pulling you into her, because she can't wait. She just wants it so bad, right? But it's teasing. It's sexual teasing. And that takes like sex and makes it so much fun. It creates this really fun back and forth dynamic between the two of you. So coquetting, I think, is something that everybody should implement. It's an absolute game changer. And I think the tip number 5, the last thing I'd give is for the men, and that is, like we've said it before a few times, is to manhandle her more. You know, show that physical strength, obviously in a safe way, obviously in a consensual way, obviously in a way that doesn't actually physically hurt her, but show that strength that you have. Pick her up, toss her onto the bed, pin her hands behind her above her head, spank her, pull her hair a bit. These kinds of things, manhandling, showing that passion and that intensity on the male side, that is us showing enthusiasm to her, I think.
Yeah. No, I think that's all great, very useful things people can kind of implement right away. I was kind of thinking through that. Yeah. I mean, like, pick your wife up. Like, I think you talked about that earlier. Pick her up, take her into the bedroom, throw her on the bed, right? Like, kind of good way to wade into that a little bit. And hey, and I'm finding these guys out here have 300-pound wives. Like, mad props to you if you can do that, right?
Well, you do hit the gym more.
Yeah, hit the gym more, right? You're really going to be impressing her if you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that makes a woman feel sexy too,
Yeah.
right? Like
being able to be manhandled.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bingo. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, Sterling, I know we're actually a little bit over an hour here, so I appreciate your time. I don't want to keep you too long, but just, before we let you go, so if people want to, explore your materials and, just kind of what you have to offer out there, how do they find you? What are the, what do you have out there for them? They could be some use.
Yeah. Well, for the women in the audience, I have a gift for you, a free gift for you. If you go to Stirling for her, Stirling spelt like it is here. My fingers working correctly.
That's
That's how
it.
you spell
Yep.
Sterling. Sterling for FOR her HER.com. I've got this thing called the Pleasure Blueprint, which is a free guide for women. It's designed to help them get more passionate sex out of their man and kind of spark things up in return as well. So it's kind of like a mini guide to like the first steps towards sparking that sex life up again in a relationship. That's the Pleasure Blueprint. And then for guys, you can just go to sterlingcooper.com. I have a bunch of material for you guys there. I also have a free guide for men, which is the 5 subtle mistakes men make in the bedroom and how they can fix them. So 2 free resources for everybody. Take that. My YouTube's full of free advice. I chuck a bunch of stuff up on there from everything that a man has possibly had problems with in the bedroom. We talk about possessions, premature ejaculation, erectile dysfunction. We talk about all ways to make a woman orgasm. So there's loads of free resources there too, so you can take advantage of that.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's something for everybody to learn out there, honestly. I mean, I think probably no matter, I'm sure there's stuff I could learn. I'm a 50-year-old dude. There's probably something out there I could learn, right?
I still learn. Every few months I'm like, oh damn, that's something new. I add that to my repertoire. I add that to the list of things I'm passing on to people because the human body is quite interesting. There's a lot of different fun things you can do.
That's good stuff. Well, Sterling, thank you so much again for joining us. Hopefully people who listen to this find it useful. I think there's a lot of great topics we covered in there, and I really appreciate your time. And we'll have to do it again at some point. We'll
love to.
Yeah, this was fun.
Good stuff. All right. Well, thanks for everyone listening, and we'll see you on the next one. All right. Bye.